everyone, Novels Wonderland here. Thank you all for the love and support you've shown me and the channel.
I, Tohsaka Rin, will become a magic god in Type Moon. Chapter 47 to 56. Chapter 47. Tohsaka Rin in Kara no Kyukai 1262 words Ogawa Apartments, Araya Saren's lair. Alba's subordinate was currently kneeling in front of Alba in fear, reporting to him. Lord Alba, our base was attacked this afternoon by the 5th Magus and Tohsaka Rin. Although we resisted fiercely, we were defeated, and most of our people were captured by the enemy. After hearing his subordinate's report, Alba's face was distorted with rage. He roared, casually picked up the teapot on the nearby coffee table, and smashed it onto his subordinate's head, scalding hot water and all. The subordinate kneeling before Alba remained motionless, even though his head was bleeding, and the scalding hot water had created large blisters on his scalp, until Alba furiously yelled, "Get out!" Only then did he scramble out of the room, clutching his head. Damn Tuko, damn 5th Magus, damn Tohsaka Rin. Alba, who was continuously cursing Tuko, and the others in his heart, once again entertained the thought of retreating. Indeed, facing the intervention of the 5th Magus, any normal Magus would likely abandon all plans and retreat obediently. But how could Araya Sauren, standing nearby, allow Alba, this chess piece, to withdraw now? Alba, are you scared? How is that possible? It's just that the intervention of the 5th Magus and Tohsaka Rin is too troublesome. Now is simply not the time to kill Tuko. Alba had tried before to use Tuko's sealing designation status to have the Mages Association dispose of her, but facing the 5th Magus and Rin, who was protected by Zelrich, the Mages Association chose to compromise. Then Alba thought of something and asked Araya Sauren. Since you've made this into an inherent reality, why don't you bring back that girl from the Ryugi family to lure Tuko here? If you can just hold off the 5th Magus for a while, I can kill Tuko, capture Tohsaka Rin, and then come back to help you. How about it? Araya Sauren shook his head. Alba, my 164 layers is not yet truly complete. Then what's there to say? Since there's no way, I'm out. Saying this, Alba picked up his hat from the coffee table, put it on, and stood up to leave. Araya Sauren watched Alba as he prepared to leave and said slowly, "Alba, how high a price are you willing to pay to kill Tuko?" Alba looked back at Araya Sauren with a mocking expression but said nothing. Then Alba, would you be willing to cooperate with a dead apostle? Church of Null. A full week had passed since Da Vinci was summoned. With the assistance of the omnipotent Da Vinci, Rin, and Tuko's research progressed faster and faster. Meanwhile, the knowledge of a certain magical index temple construction that Rin had exchanged was also successfully implemented with Da Vinci's help. Inside Church of Null, Rin was currently deploying a temple in one of the rooms. With a serious expression, Rin carefully guided the temple through magical energy into the silver cross before her. Watching from the side, Shiro Kotomine and Colin breathed carefully, for fear of disturbing Rin. Just as Da Vinci and Tuko's research had made its latest progress, the elated Da Vinci immediately thought of sharing the good news with Rin. Accidents always happen unexpectedly, and at that moment, an excited Da Vinci kicked open the door. And just like that, the ritual was interrupted. The first thing to collapse was the magic circle at the door that had been kicked open. As the circle at the door collapsed, a chain reaction occurred. The magical energy, now in chaos, began to break free from Rin's control and rampage through the room. Rin, her spellcasting interrupted, didn't have time to be angry at Da Vinci's recklessness. Seeing the cross in front of her glowing incessantly, she was so frightened that she quickly held her head and crouched under the table, trying to avoid the impending explosion. Shiro Kotomine saw the rampaging magical energy tearing through the room. Fearing that Colin would be hurt, he quickly pulled her into his arms and shielded her with his body. Several seconds passed and everything remained calm. Rin, hearing no explosion, looked up in confusion. She saw Da Vinci holding a strange plier-like tool on her hand, clamping the silver cross, while the magical energy circulated through the tubes on the tool. Shiro Kotomine, not feeling any magical impact, first cautiously raised his head, then felt relieved and rolled over, getting up to help Colin. After Colin got up, she glared angrily at Shiro Kotomine. Her forehead was bright red from being bumped, which was caused by Shiro Kotomine just now. Facing the angry Colin, Shiro Kotomine quickly apologized to her. "Sorry, Colin, Colin stood on her tiptoes, and placed a finger on Shiro Kotomine's lips. "Enough, stupid Onii-chan. I know you didn't mean it and just wanted to protect me, but could you please look clearly before you act next time?" By the table, after the magical energy had circulated through Da Vinci's tool dozens of times, it flowed back into the silver cross without a single drop lost. Rin looked at the released clamp and quickly picked up the cross, asking Da Vinci in disbelief. "How did you do that? The magical energy was already out of control, yet you could still suppress it and make it attach to the cross according to my design to form the temple." Da Vinci patted her chest as a matter of course, and said to Rin with pride, "I am Leonardo da Vinci, after all." Looking at the proud Da Vinci, Rin finally remembered her reckless behavior. She kicked Da Vinci's shin, then gave a cold snort at Da Vinci, who was clutching her shin with tears in her eyes. Rin then took the cross to Shiro Kotomine and Colin. Colin took the cross handed over by Rin with both hands, then carefully held it in her palms and murmured, "Is this the treasure that can cure my abused spirit medium constitution?" Rin smiled at Colin and explained, "Colin, this cross only forms a temple on the surface of your body to shield your abused spirit medium constitution. It's not a cure. However, from now on, if you wear it, you won't be affected by the abused spirit medium constitution." After saying that, Rin yawned and turned to Shiro Kotomine. "I've been busy for several days to make this thing. Shiro, remember to take good care of Colin normally. If Colin loses the cross or forgets to wear it, I'll come after you." "All right, enough talk, I'm going to sleep." As Rin walked out of the room, Da Vinci quickly got up from the floor and chased after her. "Wait, Rin, don't go. Look at the research Tuko and I did." Colin walked to the side of the dazed Shiro Kotomine and tugged at his sleeve. Shiro, coming back to his senses, turned to look at Colin and gave a bright smile. "Colin, congratulations. You won't have to worry about the abused spirit medium constitution anymore." Stupid Onii-chan. But we haven't thanked Rin yet." Shiro Kotomine reached out, took Colin's small hand, and said with some emotion, "Yes, we haven't thanked Rin yet. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. com/TLScarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone, if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Chapter 48. Chapter 48. Tohsaka Rin's Kara no Kyukai Journey 1378 words. A few days later at Church of Null. Kirai Kotomine returned here, with a timid Asagami Fujino behind him. To those in the Magus world, Asagami Fujino was just an ordinary name. However, if it were changed to her previous name, Asagami Fujino, it would be a different story. As one of the 4 great demon hunter families, although the Asagami family had declined, it still held some influence in the Magus world. They would never allow Kirai Kotomine, a mun from the church, to take Asagami Fujino away. Kirai Kotomine was also absolutely unwilling to give up on Asagami Fujino. The pleasure he felt after curing Fujino's analgesia was a sensation he had never experienced in his life, and there was far more than one such pleasure to be found in Asagami Fujino. After Asagami Fujino regained the sense of pain she had longed for, the emptiness in her heart remained unfilled. The tragedy of her childhood home, and the subsequent numb life-lacking pain left Fujino with no goals, not understanding what she needed, or where she was needed. After entering the building, Kirai Kotomine went straight to find Rin. He looked at the Asagami Fujino behind him, then looked at Rin with a nervous expression and slowly stated his purpose. "Rin, I need your help." Rin, who was having afternoon tea, turned to look at Kirai Kotomine as he walked to her side with Asagami Fujino. She first gave Da Vinci a look, signaling her to leave. After Da Vinci left with a pile of tea snacks, Rin asked Kirai Kotomine. Kirai, what's the matter? Kirai Kotomine pulled a letter from his robe and handed it to Rin. After Rin took the letter and looked at it, she understood exactly what kind of help Kirai Kotomine needed. She looked at Asagami Fujino, and then a little devilish smile appeared at the corners of her mouth. Kirai, before I help you, I think I need a reason. Colin and Shiro are your children, and as my senior brother, it's only right for me to help take care of them. But what do I gain by helping Asagami Fujino? In Kirai Kotomine's understanding, Rin was asking him from the perspective of a magus. Indeed, from that perspective, helping Asagami Fujino break away from the Asagami family offered no benefit to Rin. But that wasn't what Rin meant. Rin's servant experiments had already entered the stage of blank spirit origin possession. Rin, who had been lacking experimental subjects, was having a headache over this. She couldn't very well go and get Ryugi Shiki, who was still a sleeping beauty, for a forced experiment. At this time, Asagami Fujino, the Kara no Kyukai singularity archer who appeared in the games Rin had played in her previous life, was the most suitable candidate for Rin. The real purpose of Rin's previous words was to get Asagami Fujino to personally ask her for help, so that Rin could take the opportunity to set conditions. Asagami Fujino looked at the dazed Kirai Kotomine, and just as Rin had hoped, she bowed respectfully to Rin, and then made her request. Lord Tohsaka Rin, I need your help. Rin looked at Asagami Fujino, who had spoken up to ask for help just as she had expected. She nodded and asked Fujino with a smile. How do you need me to help you? And what can you bring me? Asagami Fujino looked at the goddess, who had appeared before her that night. In Fujino's eyes, Rin's request was merely the price a deity asked of her follower to answer their doubts. A rainbow light flickered in Asagami Fujino's eyes, and then a fork on the table next to Rin used for eating tea snacks twisted just like that. Rin looked at the result caused by the mystic eyes of Asagami Fujino with satisfaction, then continued to look at Fujino, signaling her to speak. Lord Tohsaka Rin, I can give everything, including these mystic eyes. I only hope you can tell me what the meaning of my life is, and what I can do. Rin was stunned. She never expected Asagami Fujino to ask this question. How the hell should I know what your life is, what you can do, and where would I know that from? Although she was panicking inside, Rin still pretended to be calm, recalling her memories from her previous life. Suddenly, the words Orochimaru used to trick Kimimaro appeared in Rin's mind. With the mindset of trying to see if she could fool Asagami Fujino, she said to her. Life itself has no meaning. But by continuing to live, you might encounter interesting people and interesting things. Just like you met Kirai Kotomine, and I met you. To Rin's surprise, these words were exceptionally effective. As Rin spoke this adapted quote from Orochimaru, not only did emotional fluctuations appear in Asagami Fujino's empty eyes, but Kirai Kotomine's eyes also lit up as he looked at Rin. As expected of you, Rin, to be able to say such philosophical words. Yes, life has no meaning in itself. Fujino, just as Rin said, I have already found the meaning of my life, and you will be able to find the meaning of your own life in the future. Asagami Fujino murmured, just like you met Kirai Kotomine, and I met you. Goddess, is this your guidance to me? Asagami Fujino, who took Rin as the incarnation of a goddess. Asagami Fujino, taking Rin as the incarnation of a goddess, suddenly knelt before Rin and requested excitedly. Lord Tohsaka Rin, please let me follow you. Whether it's becoming your disciple, letting me be your servant, or even your slave, I only ask that you allow me to follow you. Rin looked at Asagami Fujino kneeling on the ground, her heart full of doubt. Are Orochimaru's words really that powerful? She was fooled just like that. Rin stood up, went to Asagami Fujino, helped her up, and turned to look at Kirai Kotomine. Kirai, if I take in Asagami Fujino, you won't mind, will you? Kirai Kotomine looked at Asagami Fujino, whose eyes now held emotion. A joyful smile appeared at the corners of his mouth, and he couldn't help but laugh loudly. Ha 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 ha, Rin, as expected, you are the best. No, this is too great. Seeing Asagami Fujino like this, my heart is racing for the first time in a long while. Rin, do you know? The last time I felt this way was 4 years ago when I saved Shiro, ha 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 ha. Satisfaction, supreme satisfaction, joy, ultimate joy. Kirai Kotomine clutched his chest, looking like he had been broken, and just stood there laughing as if no one else was around. Rin frowned as she looked at Kirai Kotomine in this state. Finding that his demonic laughter showed no sign of stopping, she took Asagami Fujino's hand and walked upstairs. Finally, after walking up 3 floors, Kirai Kotomine's demonic laughter vanished from Rin's ears. Rin then stopped and let go of Asagami Fujino, saying to her, Fujino, do you really intend to become my disciple? Think it through first. Lord Tohsaka Rin, I've already decided. No matter what, I want to stay by your side. Then Fujino, from this moment on, you are my disciple. But you must be prepared, Fujino. Being my disciple is not that simple. Hearing Rin agree to take her in, Asagami Fujino happily picked Rin up and lifted her high. That's wonderful. Lord Rin, thank you, Baka, let me go quickly. Realizing she had done something wrong, Asagami Fujino awkwardly and carefully placed Rin back on the ground, lowering her head like a child who had made a mistake. I'm sorry, Lord Rin. Rin first straightened her messy clothes before looking up at Asagami Fujino. Forget it, it's not a big deal. Also, Fujino, from now on, you should call me teacher. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. com/TL Scarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone, if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating, thanks. Chapter 49, Tohsaka Rin's Kara no Kyukai Journey 1288 Words Outside Church of Null. Shishigukari looked up at the mage workshop, scratching his head with a bit of a headache. But thinking of the task he had accepted, he steeled himself and barged in. Tuko, who was in the research lab analyzing Asagami Fujino's data with Rin and Da Vinci, suddenly stopped her work. She adjusted her glasses, revealing a dangerous expression, and looked downstairs through the floorboards. Rin looked at Tuko, who had suddenly stopped working, and asked curiously, What's wrong, Tuko? Someone has broken in. I need to go see. Seeing Tuko preparing to go check, Rin reached out to stop her. Under Tuko's puzzled gaze, Rin took out her phone and waved it at Tuko. Come on, Tuko. It's just someone breaking in. There's no need to interrupt our research. For something like this, wouldn't it be better to just call Aoko and have her handle it? Tuko crossed her left arm over her chest and rested her chin on her right hand. She looked at Rin, who was talking to Aoko, and nodded. Indeed, it's not bad to give this kind of thing to my sister, who does nothing all day. With that, she felt at ease and continued analyzing Asagami Fujino's data. Aoko hung up her phone, sat up from her bed, and stretched. Seeing Alice sitting at the desk casting a curious glance, she explained. A mouse just broke into the workshop. Rin called and asked me to check it out. I'll go by myself. Alice, you keep reading. Hearing Aoko's reply, Alice nodded, then shifted her gaze back to her book, no longer paying attention to Aoko. Shishigukari had already reached the 3rd floor of Church of Null. Having just walked up, he saw a door slightly ajar and curiously walked over to peek through the crack. Stupid Oniai-chan, you're using reinforcement magic wrong. The book says you need to arrange the nodes on the main muscle groups of your arm through the conversion of magical energy, not by using the entire arm as the main body. Inside the room, Colin was holding a magecraft book borrowed from Rin, flipping through the pages while guiding Shiro Kotomine in his magecraft studies. Shishigukari watched the 2 brats teaching themselves magecraft and couldn't help but push the door open and walk in. I suggest you 2 little ones don't just follow the book blindly. One mistake and his arm will be ruined. Who's there? Hearing a stranger's voice behind them, Colin and Shiro Kotomine turned around in a panic. Seeing the stranger, Shiro Kotomine immediately took a step across to shield Colin behind him. Colin, holding the book in front of her, stared warily at the stranger from behind Shiro Kotomine. Shishigukari looked at the wary Colin and Shiro Kotomine, smiled, and took off his sunglasses, putting them in his coat pocket. "Hello, I am Shishigukari, a mercenary. I'm looking for Tohsaka Rin. Could you please lead the way?" Shiro Kotomine looked at Shishigukari, who claimed to be a mercenary, and didn't dare to act rashly, saying decisively, "I refuse. I won't just lead the way for a stranger." "Ah, is that so? Sigh, what a pain." Suddenly, a hand rested on Shishigukari's shoulder, and a voice said the same thing, "Yeah, what a pain." Shishigukari's pupils constricted. When did she get behind me? Out of habit as a mercenary, Shishigukari immediately prepared to pull out the gun from his coat. Unfortunately, the person behind Shishigukari was none other than Aoko, who had come to check on the intruder. Once Aoko, a combat-oriented magus, got close, any resistance was bound to be futile. Shishigukari, whose hand had just reached into his coat, felt a massive force on his shoulder. Then, he was grabbed by the shoulder by Aoko and flung away, slamming heavily against the wall. Aoko looked at the unconscious Shishigukari with satisfaction, brushed off some non-existent dust from her hands, and gave Shiro a thumbs up. "Shiro, your performance just now was great." Hearing Aoko's praise, Shiro scratched his head sheepishly and said, "It's nothing, Aoko-ne. It was just what I should do. All right, you two go back to your rooms and rest. The next part of the process isn't suitable for children to watch." Shishigukari woke up from his coma, and found himself tied to a chair in the same room. Not far away on the sofa, the fifth magus, Aozaki Aoko, was peeling fruit with a small knife. She looked at him with a half-smile, occasionally gesturing with the knife toward him, as if looking for where to start cutting. Seeing this scene, Shishigukari hurriedly shouted at Aoko. "Fifth magus, I have no ill intent. I'm a mercenary hired by the Tohsaka family. I broke into your magecraft workshop because I received news that I needed to inform Tohsaka Rin as soon as possible. There's a contract in my coat pocket, you can verify it." Aoko, who originally thought she had just caught a greedy mercenary and planned to kill time with Shishigukari, was taken aback. She stood up, walked to Shishigukari's side, and pulled out the mercenary contract and self-coercion document signed by Tohsaka Tokiomi and Shishigukari from his pocket. After reading it carefully and confirming that Shishigukari was indeed a mercenary hired by the Tohsaka family, Aoko curled her lip. With a flick of her small knife, she cut the ropes binding Shishigukari and turned to walk out the door. "Follow me. I'll take you to see Rin. You should tell her whatever news you have." "How boring." As the ropes were cut, Shishigukari stood up, rubbing his stiff wrists from being bound, and hurriedly followed Aoko's pace. "Sigh, I knew it. This job is a stroke of bad luck." Knock, knock, knock. A crisp knocking sound rang out. Inside the research lab, Rin gloomily put down the materials in her hand. Looking at Tuko and Da Vinci, who were indifferent to the knocking, she walked irritably to the door and opened it. "Aoko, why is it you? Weren't you going to deal with the intruder? Finished playing so soon?" Aoko, standing in the doorway, turned her body slightly to reveal Shishigukari not far behind her. "What intruder?" "He's a mercenary hired by your family to protect you. He says he has some important news for you." Rin looked at Shishigukari, walked out of the research lab, closed the door behind her, and then walked over to Shishigukari, who was looking out the window into the distance. Shishigukari felt Rin's approach and quickly looked away from the distance, looking directly into Tohsaka Rin's eyes to show that he was definitely not peeking at their research. Rin came to Shishigukari's side and gave him a polite bow. "Your name is Shishigukari, right? What news do you have for me?" Shishigukari nodded, took a stack of photos from his coat, and handed them to Rin. Rin took the photos, examined them carefully, and looked up in surprise. Grandsir Blackmore, Blackwing Duke. Yes, Miss Tohsaka Rin. I took these last night at the Ogawa apartments in Maimahama. Also, I heard from colleagues that a large number of dead apostles are currently on their way to Miyako City. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. com/TL Scarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Chapter 50, Rin's Kara no Kyukai Journey 1327 words, Ogawa Apartments. Has Araya Sauron teamed up with the dead apostles? Aoko looked at Rin, who was standing still in deep thought, and turned to enter the lab. After a while, Aoko came out with Tuko and Da Vinci. Tuko went straight to Rin's side and patted her shoulder, interrupting Rin's thoughts. Rin, is it confirmed now that the Blackwing Duke and Araya Sauron have teamed up? Yes, the news and photos brought by Shishigu Kairi have confirmed it. However, I find it strange how the famous Blackwing Duke would team up with Araya Sauron. Tuko took a cigarette and a lighter from her shirt pocket, then smiled at Shishigu Kairi and tossed them to him. Do we need to think that much? Aoko, are you afraid of the Blackwing Duke? Hearing Tuko's question, Aoko patted her chest confidently and answered without hesitation. Tuko, what do you take me for? I'm a magus. Why would I be afraid of those pests hiding in the shadows? After getting Aoko's reply, Tuko said to Tohsaka Rin. Rin, we don't need to care who they are or why they've teamed up. Since you consider them a threat, we just need to go to their door and eliminate them. Then Tuko turned to stare at Shishigu Kairi. Having spent many years in the mercenary world, Shishigu Kairi knew exactly what Tuko meant. He took the cigarettes Tuko gave him and walked downstairs. Miss Rin, I'm going downstairs for a smoke. After Shishigu Kairi left, Tuko continued. Rin, Fujino's data has been completely analyzed. The experiment to create a servant with a blank spirit origin can start at any time. As long as the experiment is successful, we can then go wake up Ryugi Shiki, and we'll be able to add the combat power of 2 more servants. Rin nodded, crossing her arms. Then no time to lose, let's settle this quickly. I'll call Fujino over immediately. If it's successful, we'll go to the hospital this afternoon to wake up Ryugi Shiki, and then go destroy Araya Sauron. Fujino, who should have been in class, was led by Kirai Kotomine as she hurriedly rushed out of school and arrived at Church of Null. The feeling of being needed for once made Fujino feel both excited and nervous. Walking nervously through Church of Null, Fujino, with a flushed face, thought, Master needs my help. I am needed. Finally, I can have a purpose of my own. That's great. With a mixture of nervousness and excitement, Fujino walked to the rooftop of Church of Null. On the rooftop of Church of Null, there was the same familiar magic circle. Rin was currently standing in the center of the circle, holding a holy grail filled with a milky white liquid, constantly chanting complex incantations. The liquid in the holy grail also began to emit bits of starlight along with Rin's chanting. After completing the ritual, Rin looked at Fujino, who was listening to Tuko's explanations. Fujino, Tuko has already explained it to you roughly. I must also tell you that this experiment carries a certain amount of risk. If something goes wrong, your consciousness might be taken over by the servant. So you can decide for yourself whether to participate. Will I be able to help you after the experiment is successful, Master? Rin looked at Fujino with some heartache. She hadn't expected that her attempt to imitate Orochimaru's words would actually fool Fujino into being so devoted to her. Looking at Fujino like this, Rin could only stand there, completely unsure of what to say. Master, I understand. I am willing to participate in the experiment. Tuko also noticed Rin's hesitation at this time. She walked to Rin's side, took the Holy Grail from her hand, and patted Rin's shoulder. Rin, you go rest for a bit. I'll perform the rest of the ritual. Rin just walked blankly to the edge of the rooftop, feeling the breeze on her face. For the first time, Rin began to doubt herself. Is what I'm doing right? Over the years, her constant deepening into the path of magecraft had inevitably caused Rin to pick up some of the habits of a magus, becoming somewhat selfish, indifferent to human life, and starting to use any means necessary to achieve her pursuits. Regarding Asagami Fujino, Rin had actually intended to use her from the very beginning. Because Asagami Fujino was a suitable subject for Rin's research. But just now, facing Asagami Fujino, Rin began to hesitate. At this moment, Rin thought of the oath she had secretly made when the King of Conquerors exited the stage. But I will definitely change all of this. I, Tohsaka Rin, am dreaming of becoming a demon god. That's right, I am Tohsaka Rin, the Tohsaka Rin who swore to become a demon god. I won't learn the methods of those magi. I will only be myself. Having figured it out, Rin reached out her hand and condensed magical energy, forcibly stopping the ritual that had already begun. Facing Toko's puzzled gaze, Rin just said to Fujino. Fujino, I want you to think carefully. Now that your analgesia is cured, you can completely start a new life. There's no need to walk this thorny path of magecraft. It's not too late for you to regret it now. Facing Rin's words, Fujino showed a bright smile, shook her head, and said firmly. No, master, my life is already decided, and that is to follow you. Your words let me know the meaning of my life. Now I only want to follow you. As long as I can help you, I won't hesitate to give everything. Rin looked at Fujino and made a decision in her heart. Fujino, thank you. Regardless of success or failure, from today on, you are my Tohsaka Rin's disciple. I will treat you like family. Then Rin nodded to Toko. Let's begin, Toko. Toko stood at the edge of the magic circle holding the Holy Grail, facing Fujino in the center, chanting continuously. When the circle grew brighter and brighter, nearing its peak, Fujino in the circle reached out, took the Holy Grail from Toko's hands, and drank the milky white liquid inside in one gulp. The light dissipated and Fujino in the center of the circle had now changed into a primarily red kimono. She supported her chest with one hand and said lazily to Rin. Hello, young magus. My name is Asagami Fujino. If you're asking what I can do, I'm at most just an esper who performs the trick of twisting objects. Can I be of use? Toko turned her head and exchanged a look with Rin. It's a success. Then Rin asked Fujino in the circle. Fujino, do you still remember who I am? Hearing Rin's question, Fujino's brow furrowed. She rubbed her temples and stood still for a long time before slowly speaking. You still remember? Fujino, how do you feel right now? At this time, Fujino had regained her expression from before the ritual and said respectfully to Rin. Master, when I just finished the ritual, I felt something attached to my body, and then a long string of strange memories appeared in my mind. It wasn't until just now when you asked if I remembered you, Master, that I recovered. Then Fujino looked down at the kimono that had suddenly appeared on her body, and a rainbow light emitted from her eyes as she looked toward the sky. The mystic eyes of distortion, which had already become a noble phantasm, twisted the air. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. com/TLScarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone, if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Chapter 51. Chapter 51. Rin's Kara no Kyukai Journey 1381 words. Rin, do you still have enough of the Winter Saintess's soul fragments? Facing Toko's question, Rin subconsciously looked down at the Winter Saintess's soul fragment placed in her coat's breast pocket. That's right. Rin and Toko were able to complete the creation of the blank spirit origin precisely by relying on the soul fragment of the third magic's Winter Saintess. The milky white liquid in the Holy Grail earlier was made with the Winter Saintess's soul fragment as the main raw material. There's enough to make a few more portions. However, the magical energy in the Holy Grail can only support 2 or 3 servants for a short period of combat at most, so it's meaningless even if we make more. Besides, not everyone has the potential to become a heroic spirit. Toko looked up at the sky that had just been twisted by Fujino, thinking of the natural disaster-like scene Fujino had just caused. What about me, Rin? Aoko looked at Toko's expression, walked behind her, and smacked the back of Toko's head. I say, Toko, did you forget about the Fuyuki Holy Grail Rin mentioned before? You can just go get it in a few years. Why are you in such a hurry? Toko, who had been smacked, had a fierce look in her eyes as she turned toward Aoko. But thinking of her sister's close combat ability, she could only swallow her anger. Rin looked at the Aozaki sisters, shook her head, and whispered. Toko wanted to get the power of a servant to teach Aoko a lesson before, but now, sigh. Church of Null. At this moment, everyone was gathered together. Rin looked around at everyone present and spoke. Shishigu Kairi, I'll need you to take Colin and Shiro to the church in a bit. Toko, go to the hospital tonight to wake Ryugi Shiki, and help her become a servant, then bring her to the Ogawa apartment. Aoko, I'll leave the Blackwing Duke to you. Alice and Kirai will be responsible for dealing with the dead apostles, while Fujino and I handle those magi. As for Araya Sauron, leave him to Ryugi Shiki. Everyone nodded in agreement with Rin's arrangements, then returned to their respective residences to begin preparing for tonight's battle. Shishigu Kairi then set off for the Miyako City Church with Colin and Shiro. Night fell. Rin, Alice, Fujino, Aoko, and Kirai Kotomine arrived near the Ogawa apartment. Rin looked up at the recently completed Ogawa apartment. Taking a deep breath, the flame sword, a painful gift bestowed upon giants, flew from her hand and struck the main entrance of the Ogawa apartment directly, signaling the start of tonight's battle. In response to Rin's attack, the dead apostles brought by the Blackwing Duke swarmed out of the apartment, attempting to block Rin and the others. Facing the dead apostles filing out, Rin punched one away and said to Alice and Kirai Kotomine. Alice, Kirai, I'm counting on you. With that, magical energy flashed over Rin's legs as she activated reinforcement magic and charged into the Ogawa apartment. Aoko watched Rin charge into the Ogawa apartment. With a loud shout, she fired several magic bullets to clear a path for Rin, then followed her inside along with Fujino. Alice silently watched Rin and the others enter the Ogawa apartment and began to display her power as the fairy tale witch. Red light flashed in her eyes as she activated her mystic eyes to bind the dead apostles attacking her. She then used magic bullets to shatter a nearby fountain. As the fountain broke, the water gathered into a stream. Thames Troll, one of Alice's trump cards, the bridge giant, appeared. Its massive body, 3 stories tall and made of hard rock, unscrupulously demonstrated the power of fairy tale magecraft to the dead apostles. With a boom, the bridge giant stepped forward, easily crushing the dead apostles bound by Alice's mystic eyes into a pulp, then let out a roar at the remaining dead apostles. Seeing the roaring bridge giant charge, the dead apostles wavered under such pressure. Some of the more cowardly ones even turned to flee, but it was in vain. As an excellent agent, how could Kirai Kotomine let them escape? He easily swung his black keys with his right hand to sever their heads, then used the Shroud of Thorns borrowed from the Miyako City Church with his left hand to wrap the heads, preventing the dead apostles from regenerating. Suddenly, a gap was blown out of the Ogawa apartment's outer wall. A dead apostle with black wings, looking like a fusion of a bird and a human, was sent flying from the gap and into the square outside the apartment. Seeing the figure sent flying, the dead apostles rushed forward to help him up. Blackwing Duke, don't even think about running. From the gap that had just been created, Aoko appeared, leaning against the wall with her hair turned red. Note, in this book's setting, Aoko's hair turns red when she uses magic, unlike the original work. The Blackwing Duke casually pushed aside the dead apostles near him, and with a strange cry, lunged at Aoko. Nevermore. As the Blackwing Duke's inherent reality unfolded, he and Aoko disappeared from the square. Inside the Ogawa apartment, Rin glanced at the large hole created by the battle between Aoko and the Blackwing Duke before diving back into the intense combat. The enshrinement hall of the 64 layers was the manifestation of Araya Sauron's mental world. The residents, turned into puppets, reenacted this cycle of dying at night and being resurrected in the morning day after day. Araya's body was also linked to the apartment, allowing him to teleport instantly to other parts of the building or even manipulate the space within, achieving feats close to true magic, such as spatial isolation and spatial transfer. The current residents of this building were the Magi subordinates brought by Alba previously. Under Araya Sauron's control, these puppet Magi constantly appeared in the space around Rin and Fujino to launch attacks. Rin, who had turned a gem into a giant shield to defend against the attacks, suddenly sensed danger. She threw a ruby in that direction. With a flash of fire, the Innocentia swung its massive cross to block the attack for her. The attacker was none other than Alba. At this moment, he had not only been turned into a puppet by Araya Sauron but had also been converted into a dead apostle, making him, who was already at the color rank, even more threatening. Looking at the hideous Alba, who was constantly snarling Tuko, Rin shouted to Fujino. Fujino, please help me hold that guy off for a moment. Understood, master. Vijnapti Matrada, mystic eyes of distortion. Rainbow light began to emanate from Fujino's eyes. Facing Fujino's attack, Alba roared and raised both hands, gathering flames that collided with the distortion she released. Simultaneously, Araya Sauron's signature six-fold barrier appeared around Alba. Meanwhile, Rin quickly used the shorthand codex to set up a protective temple. She took out gems stored with starlight that she had accumulated previously, and began to gather the starlight. Light wing deployment. A rain of light shot out from the wings on Rin's back. Most of the puppet Magi who couldn't be transferred by Araya Sauron in time were riddled with holes by the light rain. Then, floating in midair, Rin shouted to Fujino, who was still in a stalemate with Alba. Get out of the way, Fujino. Fujino obediently deactivated her mystic eyes and easily dodged the flames that had been clashing with her eyes. Nearly half of the feathers from Rin's wings wrapped around her right hand, emitting a golden light. Rin then supported her right hand with her left, mimicking a shooting posture, and began her incantation. Gather, O Venus. This is your glory, forge the light of destruction. This is the spear of Venus. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. com/TLScarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone, if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating, thanks. Chapter 52, Rin's Journey Through Kara no Kyukai. 1437 Words Inherent Reality, Nevermore. It was a canopy of death feathers that covered the sky, devouring the moonlight and stars, an absolute world of death, without a single trace of light. Yet, Aoko, who was currently inside it, was illuminating this world with her own magical radiance. The prolonged battle and the intermittent sneak attacks from the Blackwing Duke made Aoko feel somewhat exhausted. Just as she was seizing a lull in the fighting to recover her stamina. Suddenly, in the blink of an eye, Aoko found herself back in the square in front of the Ogawa apartment. Simultaneously, the Blackwing Duke, having deactivated his inherent reality, instantly turned into a black shadow and rushed into the Ogawa apartment. Don't run. Ignoring Alice, who was still in a fierce battle with the dead apostles in the square, Aoko hurriedly gave chase, fearing the Blackwing Duke might harm Rin. Aoko, a step too late, had just entered the Ogawa apartment only to watch helplessly as the Blackwing Duke escaped via spatial transfer with the assistance of Araya Sauron. Damn it, Rin, you better be okay. Aoko clenched her fists, her face full of self-reproach and worry. Just as she was about to rush upstairs, Tuko's voice suddenly appeared behind her. The recently transferred Blackwing Duke was, as Aoko had expected, moved to the floor where Rin and Fujino were. The Blackwing Duke extended a hand in front of Rin, who was using the Spear of Venus, and casually crushed the Spear of Venus she fired. Ignoring Rin and Fujino, he turned and spoke to Alba, who was being controlled by Araya Sauron. Araya Sauron, my subordinates have brought the person you wanted. Show yourself. Following the Blackwing Duke's words, a dead apostle carrying Ryugi Shiki emerged from the Duke's shadow. At the same time, Araya Sauron arrived via spatial transfer. Araya Sauron looked at Ryugi Shiki being held by the dead apostle, his expression remaining indifferent. "Give Ryugi Shiki to me." The Blackwing Duke gestured to his subordinate to do as Araya Sauron said, while also not forgetting to remind him. "Araya Sauron, remember our agreement. Once you connect to the root, help my master return to Earth with all your strength. If you break your word, I don't think I need to remind you of the consequences." Hearing the details of the deal between the Blackwing Duke and Araya Sauron, Rin couldn't help but shout at Araya Sauron. "Araya Sauron, do you have any idea what the consequences would be if True Moon returned to Earth?" The Blackwing Duke frowned and looked at Rin with annoyance, shouting angrily. "How dare you? My master's name is not for you to speak so casually." Upon receiving the order, the Blackwing Duke's subordinate leaped up, kicked off the ceiling, and lunged at Rin. Meanwhile, Fujino, who was about to support Rin, was held back by Alba, controlled by Araya Sauron. Just as Rin and Fujino were in a predicament, Tuko and the now servantized Ryugi Shiki met Aoko in the lobby of the Ogawa apartment. "Aoko, why are you here? Weren't you supposed to be blocking the Blackwing Duke?" Aoko turned her head in surprise, looking at Tuko as she slowly walked into the Ogawa apartment with Ryugi Shiki. "Damn it, I was careless and let the Blackwing Duke escape. By the way, Tuko, Rin is in danger right now. Do you have a solution?" Tuko nodded to Aoko, then raised her right hand, and a magic circle expanded. Before Rin and the others arrived at the Ogawa apartment, Tuko had set out early for the hospital and found the comatose Ryugi Shiki. The ever-cautious Tuko, while using the soul fragment of the Winter Saintess provided by Rin to help speed up Shiki's awakening, sensed the dead apostles sent by the Blackwing Duke to capture her. At that moment, Tuko had a sudden inspiration. She took out a puppet of Ryugi Shiki she had made after her first visit, and performed a bait-and switch with the comatose Shiki. Tuko never expected that her sudden inspiration at the time would end up being the key to saving Rin and Fujino. Upstairs, just as Araya Sauron was about to teleport while holding the Ryugi Shiki, he suddenly groaned, a trickle of blood leaking from the corner of his mouth. At this critical moment, Tuko's Ryugi Shiki puppet was activated. The magical reactor in the puppet's chest instantly began operating at full power. Simultaneously, the puppet used its reinforced right hand to strike Araya Sauron's heart. With Araya Sauron's sudden attack by the puppet, the Alba he was controlling also froze in place. Although Fujino lacked combat experience, she wasn't about to miss such an obvious opening. Her mystic eyes operated at full power, instantly twisting the frozen Alba into a mass of mangled flesh. However, although the immediate crisis was resolved, an even greater one was approaching. The Blackwing Duke watched his subordinate fighting Rin with impatience. Already eager to act, he stepped forward to join the battle as Araya Sauron was injured. Fujino nervously stepped forward to desperately block the Blackwing Duke, shouting to Rin. "Run, master. Let me hold them off." Meanwhile, in the lobby of the Ogawa apartment, Tuko, who had established a connection with the Shiki puppet, also discovered the danger Rin and Fujino were in through the puppet's eyes. Without hesitation, she took a holy grail out of her briefcase and began continuously injecting magical energy into it. "Shiki, please. Release your noble phantasm and attack this apartment. Aoko, get ready too. As soon as the apartment collapses, stop the Blackwing Duke immediately." Ryugi Shiki, dressed in a pure white patterned kimono, nodded slowly. She drew the Kajiki Kanasada, a rainbow light emanating from her pupils as she murmured. Lavijnana, Kara no Kyukai. A flash of the Tachi, as if from the far shore, instantly severed the lines of death of the Ogawa apartment. Araya Sauron's enshrinement hall of the 64 layers was killed, and the Ogawa apartment was killed as well. The entire apartment seemed to have suddenly aged by centuries. Starting from the cut Shiki had made, it began to turn into powder and drift away with the wind. Araya Sauron spat out a mouthful of blood and slumped to his knees. As the apartment was killed, the entire building began to teeter. Feeling the apartment shake, the Blackwing Duke glared fiercely at Rin then turned, grabbed Araya Sauron by the collar, broke through a window, and flew out. While the Blackwing Duke abandoned his attack to rescue Araya Sauron, Fujino's mystic eyes of distortion lit up, twisting and breaking the legs of the dead apostle who was fighting Rin. Rin also seized the opportunity to fly to Fujino's side, grabbing her and flying out of the collapsing apartment. The Blackwing Duke, carrying Araya Sauron, landed in the square. Before he could even catch his breath, Aoko was already upon him. Several magic bullets sealed off all paths of retreat, and a fist burning with green magical energy struck along with the bullets. Rin landed with difficulty beside Tuko and Ryugi Shiki in the square, carrying Fujino. She watched with admiration as the Blackwing Duke was sent flying dozens of meters by Aoko. Aoko's punches are as powerful as ever. Thanks, Tuko. You arrived just in time. Ryugi Shiki also tilted her head and looked at Rin curiously. I didn't expect her to really be such a kid. Rin deactivated her starlight mode and took out a diamond. She used Jewel Magecraft to restore her aching mage circuits while speaking to Araya Sauron. You've lost, Araya Sauron. Araya Sauron forced himself to stand. He looked around, everywhere he saw was utter defeat, with dead apostles fleeing in all directions. Not far away, the Blackwing Duke was locked in combat with Aoko, and his own trump card had now turned into a pile of dust. Tohsaka Rin, so you're the one the counterforce manipulated to stop me this time. After saying this, Araya Sauron coughed up another mouthful of blood. It seems this body has reached its limit. Cough, cough. I have no spare bodies left. Tohsaka Rin, if we meet again, it will likely be in the next century. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. com/TL Scarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Chapter 53. Chapter 53. Tohsaka Rin's journey through Kara no Kyukai. 1439 words. With Araya Sauron's fall, the Blackwing Duke also gave up the fight with Aoko and disappeared into the night. Looking at the ruins of the devastated Ogawa apartment, Rin could only give Kirai Kotomine an apologetic glance. Then, remembering the scene from the original work where Ryugi Shiki tried to destroy her own eyes after waking up, she quickly pulled Tuko aside and whispered. Tuko, what about Ryugi Shiki? We woke her up forcibly, didn't we? Once the magical energy is consumed and she becomes an ordinary person again, if she... Tuko glanced at Ryugi Shiki, not quite understanding why Rin was so concerned about someone she had only met a few times. Don't worry, Rin. Leave it to me. Hearing Tuko's words, Rin nodded in relief. Then I'm counting on you, Tuko. Counting on her for what? Ryugi Shiki had silently approached Rin and Tuko, looking at Rin with a complex expression. Rin was startled by Ryugi Shiki and guiltily looked away, not daring to meet her eyes. Seeing Rin like this, Ryugi Shiki covered her mouth and chuckled. I know what you're thinking, and you're right. Just don't let Shiki see you when she's awake. If Shiki sees you, she'll definitely kill you. Rin listened to Ryugi Shiki's words in a daze, then bowed to her with a look of gratitude. At this moment, no one present noticed that on a distant building, a doll-like girl with blonde hair and blue eyes, about the same age as Rin, was looking at Rin in the square with an infatuated gaze. Tohsaka Rin, so it's you. A few days later. As the magical energy of those 50-odd magi in the Holy Grail was exhausted, Ryugi Shiki and Fujino were released from their servant state. Rin, who was afraid of Shiki, had already left Church of Null after the battle that night. In a cafe in Miyako City, as Tuko and the others arrived, Rin snapped her fingers to activate a bounded field to repel commoners. Once the customers had left the cafe one after another, Rin spoke to everyone. I'm going back. Aoko nodded and said to Rin. It is time to go back, Rin. You've been out for several months already. However, there are a few things I want to say before I leave. Alice, would you like to come to my house as a guest? Sakura is also looking forward to you visiting us. That's great. Sakura will definitely be very happy. Saying so, Rin took out a stack of documents from her small shoulder bag and handed them to Tuko. Tuko was momentarily stunned upon receiving them. There were 3 documents that Rin handed to Tuko. One was a document Rin obtained through Kanatha's connections to lift Tuko's sealing designation status. Compared to the original story, this document came several years early. The second and third documents were invitations from the Tohsaka family for Tuko to assist in managing Fuyuki City's spiritual veins, and her employment as a consultant for the Tohsaka family. Tuko first set aside the document lifting the sealing designation, then picked up the other 2 and asked Rin. Rin, what's the reason? Don't you think we get along well, Tuko? At the same time, I need your help. In 2 years, I'll start searching the world for catalysts to prepare for the next Holy Grail War. I'll feel more at ease with you helping to look after my parents and Sakura. Besides, as a caster of the crown, now that you're no longer under a sealing designation, any family would probably scramble to beg you to join them if you were willing. Tuko slowly lit a cigarette, then seeing Colin's furrowed brow, she gave an awkward smile and put it out. Aoko looked at her sister, stood up, went behind Tuko, and slapped her on the back. Tuko, what are you hesitating for? You're going to participate in the Holy Grail War anyway, so isn't it better to prepare in advance? Plus, the salary is quite generous. It makes even me want to go. Rin, how about I go to your house as a consultant too? Knowing that Aoko was a woman like the wind who would never be tied down, Rin ignored Aoko's joke and stared at Tuko instead. Tuko, 10 years at most. Although I don't know the exact starting time of the next Holy Grail War, the current state of the seal definitely won't last 10 years. You can check that for yourself when the time comes. Tuko, I promise you that after the Holy Grail War ends, no matter how many years are left on the contract, if you want to leave, you can do so at any time. Although she had a good compatibility with Rin, Tuko was absolutely unwilling to be tied down forever. However, after receiving Rin's promise, Tuko readily signed her name on the contract. For Tuko, who was practically immortal, a mere 10 years was bearable. Rin took the contract with Tuko's name on it and happily hugged Tuko, giving her a peck on the cheek. All right, only the matter of Fujino is left. Fujino, do you plan to continue studying at Rien Girls Academy, or do you plan to give up your studies and return with me to focus on the path of magecraft? I'll go back with you, Master. Fujino answered decisively. All right, Fujino, go back and pack your bags now. I'll ask Kirai to buy tonight's tickets for us later. At the entrance of the Miyako City Grand Hotel. Having finished their final meal together, Rin, along with Alice, Fujino, Da Vinci, Colin, and Shiro Kotomine, was waving goodbye to Aoko and Tuko. Tuko, remember to settle things here with Ryugi Shiki quickly. I'll wait for you in Fuyuki City. Aoko, you're welcome to visit Fuyuki City anytime. All right, I get it, Rin. You've already said it 100 times at the dinner table. After parting with Tuko and Aoko, Rin, feeling a sense of reluctance, walked with everyone to the Shinkansen station not far from the hotel. Seeing Kirai Kotomine already waiting there with the luggage, Rin finally regained her composure and embarked on the journey home with the group. By the time everyone reached Fuyuki City, it was already past 9 p.m. Stepping out of the station and seeing the familiar streets and buildings, Rin couldn't help but shout. Fuyuki City. I, Tohsaka Rin, have returned. Colin covered her mouth and giggled at Rin, then walked over to her side and took out a bracelet to hand to Rin. Sister Rin, Shiro and I got this from a very famous temple in Miyako City. Thank you for taking care of us during this time. Rin took the bracelet and scratched her head in embarrassment. She hadn't really taken care of Colin and Shiro. In Miyako City, Alice had looked after them most of the time, and later it was Fujino. Kirai Kotomine stepped forward, set down the luggage for Rin and the others, took Colin's small hand, and nodded to Rin. All right, Colin, it's late. Let's head back to the church first. You can visit Rin's home when you have time. Rin, we'll be heading back to the church now. Thanks for your help during this time, Kirai. Tohsaka residence. Since purchasing electronic devices for the house, Tohsaka Tokiomi had become obsessed with television. At this moment, Tokiomi was in the hall with Sakura and Tohsaka Aoi watching a TV drama. However, unlike Tokiomi, who was intently analyzing the plot for Tohsaka Aoi, Sakura would occasionally look out the window with a worried expression. Just as she subconsciously looked out the window once more. Following Sakura's exclamation, Tohsaka Tokiomi and Tohsaka Aoi, who were engrossed in the TV, also turned their heads. Rin led everyone into the courtyard and opened the doors of the Western-style mansion. Having just noticed Rin, Tohsaka Tokiomi was preparing a surprise with Tohsaka Aoi and Sakura. Looking at Rin, who was stunned as she opened the door, he said to her with a smile. "Welcome back, Rin, little Rin sister." Rin felt a sting in her nose at the sight. Excitedly, she dropped her luggage and jumped into Tohsaka Aoi's arms, shouting, "I'm back, Papa, Mama, Sakura, hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. com/TL Scarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone, if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating, thanks." Chapter 54, Tohsaka Rin's Clock Tower Journey. 1271 words. Tohsaka Rin's room. At this moment, Rin was fast asleep in bed, her messy long hair scattered across the pillow. A corner of the quilt had been kicked up, exposing Rin's fair belly to the air. Feeling a chill in her sleep, Rin subconsciously covered her belly with her small hands. Rin's door was quietly opened, and Sakura cautiously peeked her head into the room. Seeing Rin fast asleep, she then pushed the door open and walked in, carefully locking it behind her. She came to the side of the sleeping Rin's bed and stared at her without moving, her face resting in her hands. "Even while sleeping, sister is so cute." Just then, the sound of someone turning the doorknob came from the door. The person outside seemed to realize the door was locked and clicked their tongue in frustration. Hearing the sound, Sakura couldn't help but frown, seemingly knowing who it was. Sure enough, after a short while, the lock on the door was twisted. The newcomer was Asagami Fujino. After twisting the lock open with her mystic eyes, Fujino gently pushed the door open and entered Rin's room. Her eyes lit up when she saw Rin sleeping, but they immediately darkened when she noticed Sakura was also there. 5 years have passed since the Kara no Kyukai incident, and it is now July 2003. During these 5 years as Rin's disciple, Fujino has become deeply infatuated with Rin, often clashing with Sakura over her. Sakura similarly dislikes this disciple Rin took in 5 years ago. Seeing Fujino constantly pestering Rin, Sakura even feels that Fujino intends to steal her sister away. Watching Fujino forcibly break the lock and disturb her time with her sister, Sakura first took a step across to block Fujino's view of Rin, then spoke to Fujino in an angry, low whisper. "Fujino, what are you doing in my sister's room so early in the morning? You even broke the door lock." Fujino looked at the annoyed Sakura with a mocking smile. A magic circle lit up in her hand as she gripped the doorknob. As the magecraft took effect, the lock was repaired. Then Fujino walked past Sakura, pushing her aside, and stared excitedly at Rin. "Did I break the lock?" "Asagami Fujino. Close your eyes. I won't let you look at my sister." Seeing Fujino still staring at Rin, Sakura became a bit frantic. She grabbed Fujino's clothes and pulled back hard, trying to drive her out of Rin's room. Fujino, caught off guard by the sudden pull, lost her balance. At the moment she was falling toward the floor, Fujino reached out and grabbed Sakura's hand, pulling hard as well. This caused Sakura to lose her balance too, and so Sakura and Fujino fell to the ground together, rolling into a heap. Rin was startled awake by the sound of Sakura and Fujino falling. She sat up and looked toward the source of the noise. At this moment Sakura and Fujino, who were on the floor pinching each other's faces, awkwardly let go of each other. They shared an embarrassed look and a smile, then turned their heads toward Rin on the bed. "Good morning, sister." Rin, who had returned home late last night after a hurried trip to find catalysts, watched her sister and disciple tangled on the floor with a twitching eye. She turned her head stiffly, then lay back down on the bed, pulling the covers over her head and muttering to herself. "I must still be dreaming. Yes, I'm not awake yet. Fujino and Sakura couldn't possibly be like this." Sakura and Fujino let go of each other and climbed up from the floor, looking awkwardly at Rin, who was playing turtle under the blankets. Sakura, who had relied on Rin since childhood, was seen by everyone as a bit timid, always the good girl next door, gentle, kind, cute, and reliable in a pinch. These were all Sakura's labels, but Fujino knew they were all a facade. When it came to Rin, Sakura was incredibly assertive. Since becoming Rin's disciple, Fujino had always presented herself as a lady, polite, gentle, and strong. But Sakura knew exactly how manipulative and obsessive Fujino was regarding Rin. During their years together, Sakura had caught Fujino hiding Rin's personal belongings multiple times. Not only that, Fujino was hostile toward anyone close to Rin, and tried everything to ruin their image in Rin's eyes. Rin's absence for several months searching for catalysts had driven the long-deprived Sakura and Fujino to take risks, accidentally revealing their other sides in front of Rin. Sakura and Fujino looked at Rin, who was still hiding under the covers, huffed at each other, and left Rin's room together, hoping Rin really would treat what just happened as a dream. At 10:30 a.m., Rin got up with bleary eyes. She pulled open the curtains, felt the warm sunlight outside, and stretched lazily. Rin took her time washing up and combing her hair. By the time she was finished, it was already 11:40. Following the scent of food, Rin walked to the kitchen door and saw Sakura and Fujino happily preparing lunch under Tohsaka Aoi's guidance. She nodded. "I knew it. How could Sakura and Fujino be fighting in my room? It really was a dream." In the kitchen, Sakura and Fujino, who were helping Tohsaka Aoi prepare lunch, also noticed Rin's arrival. They were nervous, anxiously waiting for Rin's judgment, but when they heard her dismiss the morning's events as a dream, they finally relaxed. Aoi, who was stir-frying, finally noticed Rin. She also missed her daughter dearly after not seeing her for months. She gave Fujino an apologetic look, and then handed the spatula to her. "Please, Fujino, help me out for a moment." Fujino took the spatula obediently and smiled at Tohsaka Aoi. "Auntie, go spend some time with Master. She must have missed you after several months. Leave things here to Sakura and me, right Sakura?" Sakura, who originally wanted to go see Rin with her mother, could only nod reluctantly at Fujino's words, going along with her excuse. Taking off her apron, Tohsaka Aoi went to the kitchen door, took Rin's hand, and led her toward the hall while asking about her recent activities. Rin looked at Tohsaka Aoi, who was chattering in her ear, and a happy smile appeared on her face. Seeing the few wrinkles that had grown on Aoi, she realized she had been with this family for nearly 17 years. The young and gentle mother from her childhood was now starting to age. Rin made a silent resolution in her heart: once the Holy Grail War is handled, I must take over as the head of the family and move everyone to England. That way, we'll never be separated from our family again. I'll just leave the Fuyuki City ley lines to Tuko. In the hall, Tuko and Tohsaka Tokiomi were discussing recent news from the magecraft world. Seeing Tohsaka Aoi leading Rin into the hall, Tuko and Tohsaka Tokiomi stopped their conversation and turned to look at Rin together. "Rin, when did you get back?" "Father, I rushed back to Fuyuki City yesterday after receiving the message Tuko sent me. I arrived home around 3 a.m. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Chapter 55, Tohsaka Rin's Clock Tower Journey. 1343 words. Yesterday, while Rin was overseeing an excavation at a site in the Middle East, she suddenly received a call from Tuko. Hearing the details Toko shared over the phone, Tohsaka Rin quickly dismissed the workers. After the workers were dismissed, Rin used Shishigakari's connections to arrange a helicopter. Risking being shot down by anti-aircraft fire, she flew to Russia, then used Magecraft to hypnotize airport staff, and took a flight back to Fuyuki City. The news Toko sent was an invitation from the Clock Tower's astronomy branch Lord Marisbury Animusphere. It invited Rin to the Animusphere residence, and the mention of the word Chaldea was exactly why Rin was so anxious. After explaining the reason for her return last night to Tohsaka Tokiomi, Rin took the invitation from Toko's hand. After a careful read-through, she handed it to Tohsaka Tokiomi, who was glancing at it from time to time. Tohsaka Aoi, hearing Rin and Tohsaka Tokiomi start discussing the Magecraft world again, and learning that Rin was going on another long journey, felt both helpless and distressed, sitting quietly to the side. Rin keenly noticed Tohsaka Aoi's low spirits. She reached out and took Aoi's hand, turning to give her a reassuring look. "It's okay, Mom. Once things are settled during this period, we'll never be apart again." Tohsaka Aoi looked at the grown-up Rin, and reached out to touch Rin's cheek. "Rin, you've grown up. Go do what you want to do. I'm just a bit sentimental. I absolutely don't want to become a burden to you." "Mom, you're definitely not a burden. I've only been able to persevere until today because of your support. Don't worry, Mom, when the Holy Grail War is over, we'll live together happily." At this moment, Tohsaka Tokiomi, who was seriously studying the invitation, looked up in surprise and turned to Rin. "Rin, the Holy Grail War. Isn't the Holy Grail War every 60 years? Father, you know the Holy Grail is broken. According to my investigation, the next Holy Grail War will start by next year at the latest. I won't go into more detail with you." "Rin, are you sure?" Rin patted her chest and lifted her head proudly. "Of course, Father." A few days later, on a plane from Fuyuki City to London, Rin looked with a headache at Fujino and Sakura, who had secretly followed her and taken the seats next to her. "Did you two tell Mom and Dad?" "Sister, we left a note." Fujino also nodded in agreement. "You too." "Sai, forget it. When we get to London, I'll buy you both plane tickets, and you must return immediately. Sakura, do you have any idea how worried Mom and Dad will be? And Sakura, when did you learn to pull this kind of stunt?" Sakura looked at Rin with a wronged expression, tears brimming in her eyes, unable to hold them back. "I've been learning from Master Alice for so long now. Big sister, I just want to help you. Please don't send me away, okay?" As Sakura spoke, she burst into tears. Beside her, Fujino also began to sob silently with a dejected expression. Rin held her forehead, looking with a headache at the other passengers who were staring because of Sakura and Fujino's crying. She waved her fist angrily and roared at the people around her. "What are you looking at?" Along with Rin's roar, a surge of magical energy was imbued into her voice. Instantly, the surrounding passengers fell into a hypnotic state, all lowering their heads with vacant expressions. Startled by Rin's outburst, Sakura and Fujino stopped crying and looked at Rin timidly. "Fujino, you're so old now, how can you be so immature? And you, Sakura?" "Sai, forget it, I really can't do anything with you two. As soon as we get off the plane, you must call Mom and Dad immediately. If they agree, you can stay. If Mom and Dad object, you must go back. Do you understand?" The two quietly exchanged a glance and made a V sign at each other, then nodded in response to Rin, who had reluctantly changed her mind. Rin took out a pack of tissues, pulled out two, and handed them to Sakura and Fujino. "You two have cried until your faces are a mess. Take these and wipe them off." Fujino took the tissues and carefully tucked them into her pocket, intending to keep them as a memento, then pulled Sakura up. "No need, Master. Sakura and I will just go to the restroom and wash up." Saying this, she pulled Sakura and walked towards the restroom. "How about that, Sakura? I told you that as long as we cried, Master would compromise. TCH, if it weren't for me, your cheap trick wouldn't have worked. Big sister must have felt bad for me. Master must have felt bad for me. What does that have to do with you? The plane slowly landed at London Airport. Rin led Fujino and Sakura out of the airport. She took out her phone and fumbled for a long time, before finally switching the time to London time. It was already 11 p.m. in England. Rin turned her head to look at Fujino. Fujino, call Mom and Dad right away. I'll contact Waver and see why that guy hasn't arrived yet. After speaking, Rin picked up her phone, dialed Waver's number, and walked to the side. Sakura stared nervously at the phone in Fujino's hand, hoping Mom and Dad would agree. Rin hung up the phone, returned to Sakura and Fujino, and asked, "What did Mom and Dad say?" Sakura excitedly hugged one of Rin's arms and said happily, "Big sister, Mom and Dad agreed. But while in London, you must stick close to me and don't wander off. It seems the clock tower hasn't been peaceful lately." Understood. Half an hour later, Waver finally drove the car to the airport entrance. Having just stepped out of the car, Waver saw Rin waiting by the roadside with her luggage at a glance. "Rin, over here." "It's me, Waver." Sakura looked in surprise at the waving Waver in the distance. She really couldn't connect the tall man with long hair in front of her to the thin, short boy from 9 years ago. Rin, who already knew about Waver's transformation from her memories, calmly carried her luggage to Waver's side and greeted him naturally. "Waver, it's been 9 years. You've changed a lot." Looking at Rin, who hadn't changed much, Waver wore a look of nostalgia. "Rin, it really has been 9 years. Come, Rin, let me introduce you. This is my student, Gray." Gray, who was beside him, politely bowed to Rin. "Hello, Miss Tohsaka Rin. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Gray, and I am the professor's student." "Gray, it's a pleasure to meet you too. I've been looking forward to meeting you for a long time." Hearing Rin's words, Waver looked as if he had expected it. He patted the nervous Gray and said to Rin, "Rin, let's get in the car first. Master is very much looking forward to your arrival." As everyone got into the car, the vehicle sped off the highway, passed through country lanes, and slowly entered a massive estate. The car stopped slowly in front of the castle within the estate. Servants of the El Meloy faction immediately stepped forward to open the car doors. Then, Rin, Sakura, and Fujino followed Waver into the castle. "Welcome, Tohsaka Rin. Welcome to the El Meloy faction." In the center of the castle hall, Kenneth, sporting a small mustache, stood with his hands behind his back, welcoming Rin's arrival. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. com/TL Scarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone, if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Chapter 56, Tohsaka Rin's journey to the clock tower. 1419 words. Rin strolled through the El Meloy faction's headquarters under Kenneth's guidance. After the tour, citing the exhaustion of the journey, Rin declined the request to hold a banquet late at night, and returned to the room Kenneth had arranged for her with Sakura and Fujino. Rin recalled what she had seen along the way, and examined the mercury-based humanoid maid beside her. It seems Kenneth has been doing quite well for himself these past few years. With the help of the mercury maid, Rin, Sakura, and Fujino tidied up their respective rooms, and returned to the hall of this guest suite. "Big sister, this place is so big." Sakura couldn't help but exclaim, feeling the terrifying financial power of the El Meloy faction. Indeed, the tour had been an eye-opener for Rin, a country young lady from the Far East. Whether it was the endless lawn in front of the estate, or the gold-adorned castle filled everywhere with ornaments containing ancient mysteries, everything screamed the words nouveau riche. Not to mention these mercury humanoids and the numerous magus servants. Just considering the guest suite Kenneth had arranged for Rin, It not only had a hall of nearly 200 square meters but also included 4 bedrooms, a study, a walk-in closet, and 2 independent bathrooms. Looking at the sighing Sakura, Rin also revealed a look of longing, then said firmly to Sakura. "Don't worry, Sakura. In the future, big sister will definitely get an estate even better than this and let you be a little princess inside it." In the castle's conference room, the air was already thick with smoke. Kenneth sat in the main seat, a cigar in his mouth, asking with some annoyance toward his mentor, father-in-law, head of the Department of Creation, and one of the 12 lords of the Clock Tower, the head of the Soliyui family, Ulysses. "Can you be certain?" Ulysses took a note from his pocket and handed it to Kenneth. "Kenneth, those guys from the Democratic faction have already taken the opportunity to stir up trouble." This came from the Bartholomew family. "It seems they intend to use Tohsaka Rin as their breakthrough point this time." "Waver, what do you think?" Waver frowned, contemplating the situation, and flicked the ash from the cigar in his hand. "Master, I think we can use that agreement between the Tohsaka family and Zelrich." "You mean the jewel sword?" "As long as we can get Zelrich to step forward again like 9 years ago, those guys from the Democratic faction will definitely let it drop this time. As long as she can grow and demonstrate her value, we can completely take the lead in having the aristocratic faction accept another Tohsaka family. If those Democratic faction members try to bring up old matters again and use Tohsaka Rin as an excuse to make trouble, that would be a declaration of war." Kenneth nodded and instructed Waver. "Then, Waver, go and confirm it tomorrow. If Tohsaka Rin hasn't finished the imitation of the jewel sword, I authorize you to mobilize all resources of the Elmeloy faction to help her imitate the jewel sword. Mentor, please trouble yourself to visit the Bartholomew family more often these few days to stall them. Don't let the Department of Magecraft Administration issue any directives so soon. I will find a way to handle Zelrich. Kenneth, leave the Bartholomew side to me. You can focus on contacting Zelrich." "Very well, Master." Early in the morning, under the service of the Mercury humanoid, Rin finished washing up and dressing. Carrying the morning tea brought by a servant, she sat in front of the massive floor-to-ceiling window, watching the unique scenery. Having arrived at the estate late last night, Rin hadn't carefully observed the courtyard outside the castle. Now, with the clear morning view, she finally observed the full picture of the courtyard. Apart from the endless lawn leading to the castle gate, the other directions a massive botanical garden, an exquisite pavilion, a clear pond, a flowing stream, and the distant forest composed a fairy tale-like scene. The front lawn is to better observe intruders. "Good morning, Miss Tohsaka Rin." Just as Rin was immersed in the beautiful scenery, a cute young girl wearing a Western-style dress with soft blonde hair and skin as delicate as a doll came behind Rin and explained. The girl looked at Rin, who had turned her head to look at her in confusion, smiled slightly, and bowed to Rin like a lady. "Hello, Miss Tohsaka Rin. Please allow me to introduce myself, heir to the Elmeloy faction, Kenneth's adopted sister, Rhaenys Elmeloy Archazort." Rin set down the morning tea she was holding, and after politely returning the bow, said, "Miss Rhaenys, may I call you that?" "Of course you may, Miss Tohsaka Rin. Thank you for your help to the Elmeloy faction over these years." "Not at all. It should be me thanking the Elmeloy faction for their help to me over these years." Just as Rin and Rhaenys were engaging in polite professional flattery, Fujino and Sakura, having finished washing up, arrived at the guest hall. Seeing Rhaenys chatting happily with Rin, Fujino and Sakura both fixed their hostile glares on Rhaenys. Feeling the gazes of Sakura and Fujino, Rhaenys stopped her conversation with Rin, turned her head to look at Sakura and Fujino, then looked back at Rin, a playful smile appearing on the corner of her mouth. "Miss Tohsaka Sakura, Miss Asagami Fujino, did you rest well last night?" Seeing Rhaenys's ladylike demeanor, Fujino and Sakura realized what was happening, withdrew their gazes, and politely returned the greeting to Rhaenys as well. "Good morning." "Thank you, we rested very well last night." "Right, chatting with you was so pleasant that I forgot my purpose. My brother has already set up a banquet in the banquet hall, and I am here to invite you all over. Following Rhaenys to the hall, Rin couldn't help but mutter. A banquet early in the morning. As they walked into the banquet hall, Sola Ui, who was waiting at the entrance, and Rhaenys, who was leading the way, enthusiastically pulled Sakura and Fujino towards a dining table filled with delicacies. Meanwhile, Rin, who was surrounded by a large group of magi fawning over her, saw Waver in the distance constantly signaling to her. Roughly understanding what was going on, Rin politely apologized to the magi who had come to see her, pushed through the crowd, and followed Waver toward another exit of the banquet hall. Seeing Rin leave with Waver, this group of magi all wore expressions of disappointment. The strongest maternal body, huh? Seems like aside from those legs, she's just a bit cute. Is she really as legendary as they say? Who knows? Anyway, my family gave me a strict order. If I can't gain Tohsaka Rin's friendship, I'm going to be in big trouble when I go back today. In the crowd, an arrogant young magus rolled his eyes at this group of losers from various families and couldn't help but mock them. You idiots, can't you even feel the magical energy intensity on her? In my opinion, her mage circuits, combined with main and auxiliary, might be nearly 100. What, 100? You're joking, right? How is that possible? Exactly. The young magus ignored their chatter and just calculated silently in his heart, based on my own 12 main and 30 auxiliary circuits, to reach this level of magical energy as Tohsaka Rin, it would require at least 40 main and over 50 auxiliary circuits. Once I get Tohsaka Rin, I'll make her reveal her mage circuits to open these idiots' eyes. P.S. Rin has 40 main and 30 auxiliary circuits, totaling 70. This book adopts this statement. This guy thinks Rin has over 100 because I set Rin's mage circuits to be of super high quality, roughly equal to the quality of Alice's mage circuits. Rin followed Waver, turning through various corridors and slowly walked into a room. When Rin saw the figure in the main seat in the center of the room, she froze on the spot, not knowing what to do. Hope you enjoy this fanfiction. If you do, and would like to read the next 30 chapters in advance, please do check out my Patreon. com/tlscarlet. Also don't forget to give me a power stone if you do like this fiction. Your support really motivates me to continue doing my best in translating. Thanks. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Novels Wonderland.